Welcome back, guys, for another Gamebug review video. This time I'm going to be reviewing Divinity Original Sin 2. And I reviewed this on the PlayStation 4 Pro. But you can also get it on the Xbox One X and on PC. Or just regular Xbox One and regular PS4. So, let's dive in. So, let's start off with the general format of our review. So, we'll start off with concept. Now, this game is very story heavy and dialogue heavy. So typical for, these RPG games. This one being a strategy RPG, much like things like, tactics games or XCOM or stuff like that. But a lot more complex and a lot more to do, but we'll dive into that later. So basically start off with a character that you choose from. Now, you can create your own custom character, but I recommend choosing one of the prefix characters as they have, more dialogue options and they're voiced and all that sort of stuff. So I went with a character called Los, or Losi, or I think it's Los. And so she is like a sorceress, and so you've been captured. You start on this ship, and you've got this collar around your neck, which is basically to stop you from using your source power. And the source power is apparently a power from the gods or something. And there was like a divine order or something. This dude who was like a god, he had the power of the gods, and he was sort of protecting the world from like the netherworld, which is called the void, and then he ended up dying. And so basically these creatures are drawn to anyone using this source power, which is generally sorcerers, like magic. So there's, I think it's called the Divine Order, and they're full of magistras, and what they have done is they've basically captured all the sorcerers, and they take them to an island called Fort Joy, where they apparently cure them of their source, so that the void, void walkers or something? Basically, the creatures from the void, these demon-like things, they want to stop people from using magic, so these things don't come into, basically Earth and ravage everyone. So that's all good, and it sounds legit, like kind of like a quarantine, but they're not curing anyone. They're basically just turning him into mindless, dull, dead people inside, basically vegetables. So you obviously want to escape and save everyone, and blah blah blah. I won't go into too much detail, but very heavy on the story. Everything is fully voice acted, even like just random NPCs. You can even talk to animals with a certain skill, and even those have voice acting. And a lot of dialogue options, so many different paths you can choose of how the dialogue goes. You can even use different things to sort of persuade your way out of situations or to barter with characters. So it's very heavy on the dialogue and story options. So if you want a very deep, engrossing story and you love that fantasy sort of theme, then this is definitely for you. So moving on to, let's go on to the graphics section. So I did play this on the PS4 Pro, so you get the HDR support, and it's in 4K. I didn't actually check if it was native 4K, but it looks pretty damn impressive on my screen. Visually, it's a top-down isometric view. I will say that even I'm playing on my 55-inch, and I still struggle to see what I'm doing. Like I'm squinting to try and see where things are, because even though you're playing on a bigger screen, everything is still so tiny, especially in 4K. I don't know, just everything looks shrunken, and the text is very small. But you can see a lot of the map, so there's a sort of trade-off there. You can zoom in on your characters though, but I don't know, something about it it's just weird, because then when you zoom in, you can't really see what's going on around you. But it is pretty, it's got that whole fantasy theme. So you got a lot of like coastal areas and forests and dead marshes and all that sort of stuff, and castles and big buildings. And I like the fact that your characters, all the character races, they all look very different, very unique. and when you apply armor, you can actually see it on your character. I always like that. I can't stand when you select armor and your character just looks the same. It's like, well, what was the point of that? So that's that's always a plus. It runs pretty well too. There's only a minor few hitches every sort of so often, like with some frame rate dips, but nothing major, nothing that would stop you enjoying the game. And if you've seen me stream it the last couple of times, you would notice that it runs pretty well. I would say that it obviously runs a little bit less on the base consoles, and I would assume that it runs a bit better on the Xbox One X than the PS4 Pro. But even still, like, I haven't had an issue with it. So visually, it's pretty damn good. And I like the fact that you can sort of walk through the map without any sort of objects loading in. There's no sort of what's the word for it? I've gone blank. But yeah, no pop in really. I guess that's the term everyone uses. So yeah, visually it's pretty impressive. So let's go into gameplay. So this is the core part of it, obviously. So as much as it's story based, it relies heavy on mechanics. So it's not turn based in the way that you just select. Like, it is turn-based. Let me get this. It is turn-based, but it's not just your character just stands in in the same spot like Pokemon and you just go back and forward. So this one is a strategy one where you can move around at the cost of, as they call it, AP. So basically, you'll have a certain amount of slots that you can use to attack or move your character. So you want to get into the best position you can to either avoid their attacks or to get the best advantage to attack your enemies. And let me say, you can play this solo, both solo in the terms of you can play it one player, but also solos in you can just have one character, or you can get up to 3 more companions. I don't know why you wouldn't have 3 extra companions, because, I mean, maybe if you're just crazy and you just want to make everything really hard. But I always have my main character and 3 companions. And so you get to place them sort of around the arena and try and, target the best spots. And you can use things to your advantage, like if there's water on the floor and a character's standing in it, you can use lightning to electrocute them. If there's a fire barrel, you can target that and make it blow up. Same goes for if an enemy walks through fire, they start burning. So it's really cool with that strategy element to basically not just have like a one-on-one sword fight. You've got the elements to use as well, both in your magic skills that you can use and also around you, which I find really well done. And this game is so deep. There's so many options for attacks that you can use, so many options for magic that you can use, and different potions, different things that you can attach to your weapons, like using poison arrows for your archer. Different things like fortifying your body to protect yourself from like magic attacks or from blunt attacks. So it's very in-depth. Now, that's just talking about battles. So when you're sort of walking around the town, you basically just walk around and you will talk to a character and get a quest example. And, there's got the dialogue options, as I mentioned earlier. And then from there, you can tackle your quests in different ways. So, for example, one of the quests at the start saw like an elf imprisoned, and I could either fight the guy who imprisoned him and not even try and solve the mystery, or I could find out what happened to get him imprisoned and how can I get him out in a peaceful way without causing a fight between everyone. So there's many ways you can approach these things. You can literally start a fight with anyone, basically, in the town. And obviously, that lowers what they think of you, and more people will fight you. You'll get less deals on trade, especially if you steal things and they see it. So there's just a lot of complexity to this game. You can also teleport your characters with a certain ability to reach different locations. You can move objects to sort of block the path of other ones, or to move something out of the way so you can cross. It's just very, very in-depth. Now, in saying that, you would think, oh, okay, this would be great on a PC because there's a lot of buttons on a keyboard. Naturally, it would be a lot easier. I will say, yeah, that is kind of true. There is a lot of buttons to remember on the PS4 controller, and some of them not so good. So this is a very long game, and I feel like half the time spent is just managing your inventory and going back and forward. So if you have 4 characters that you're looking after, you basically got to select a character, then go into the inventory and fix all their stuff, fix all their equipment and armor. Then you've got to go out, select a different character, then go into their inventory and change everything up. You can't just sort of hit a button to scroll through the different characters. You've basically got to go out and select them one by one. And it's just little things like that that just make it a bit more tedious. And I'm a sucker for that. I want to like equip the best of the best gear, and I'm always checking to see what's better. And I think you need to basically sit down and have a good amount of time to play this sort of game, because you're looking at about 100 to 120 hours just for a base playthrough. It's a very, very long game. But it's also one that it's just, it draws you in. Once you get over the sort of the start of it, you know, it's a bit monotonous at the start. Like, you know, you don't really know what to do. The quests are a bit just generic and bland, but then it just sort of ramps up and it just draws you in. And once you get the hang of things, you really can't wait to see what you can sort of do in a battle. And you'll find yourself strategizing every little thing to make the most out of your battle. So I really, really enjoy it for that. Let's go into the sound. It's impressive, like ridiculously impressive, how much work went into the sound department. The music's fantastic. The sound effects are great, but the amount of voice actors in this, everything is voice acted. All your main characters, every dialogue is voice acted, like every line of dialogue, every choice. Talking to some random who has nothing to really, you know, provide in the game has a voice. Like everyone I've spoken to has a voice. As I mentioned at the start, even animals that you talk to with certain characters, which you need a specific ability to be able to talk to them, have a voice. So if you don't have that ability and you never talk to an animal, that's just wasted dialogue that they've used for some and paid some guy to just voice act it. So I really think that's amazing, the amount of effort they went into that. The sound design is just fantastic, and I can't fault it at all. So let's go into the awesomeness section. So I think for me, this would be probably the fact that you can play this game 4-player online. So each controls one of your party members. But what makes it even better is if you're playing 2-player couch co-op. So a lot of these games, you'll share the screen, much like Diablo 3. You'll share the screen, and then if you venture off too far, it will split the screen. Or some of the games will restrict you from going so far. In this, you can select it to be permanently split, and both characters can control their own camera and go where they need to go. And I think that's fantastic, to be able to control and have 2 separate people controlling where they go and what their camera is doing is just amazing. Instead of having to rely on a force, like a split screen that happens when you go off center, because it going from split screen to normal to split screen to normal, it's just frustrating. So to be able to just lock it like that at split screen and then manage your own thing and do what you want is just awesome. And yeah, I just love the fact that there's so many options. You can play it solo. You can play it with 1 party member, 2 party members, 3 party members. You can even break off. You can leave certain characters in one position and then go off on your own with another character. And, come back and leave them, let them out of your party. And it's just so much stuff you can do. So many quests, so many options. It's just amazing. I really, really like it. And I found that I got more and more invested into it over time, as opposed to sort of it dying off. So I thought that was a really great thing. So overall, I mean, it got in the high 9s when it came out on PC for its release. Now, I wouldn't give it as high as that on console, just because A little bit of frame rate dips. The controls aren't as manageable. Your character is just so slow when they run around. A little bit of a fast walk would have been nice, or a fast run. Just little things that I pick on that I feel like maybe they could patch in to sort of make it a bit more user-friendly and easily accessible. And it's not a game for everyone because it's very deep. It's not something you just jump in and play for 5 minutes. You'll play for what feels like 5 minutes and over an hour's gone by. You'll feel like you've played 20 hours of the game and you've done nothing. So be prepared if you want a very deep, engrossing game. This is one for you. If you're more of the casual player and you just want to sort of jump into something, have a quick match and jump out, maybe not so much. There is a few different difficulties, and this game can be really hard. So I suggest if you're getting your ass kicked a lot, turn the difficulty down, and don't feel ashamed about this, because these games are meant to test you, because they're pretty brutal. But yeah, I overall, I think it's a fantastic game, and I think everyone should check it out if they're into RPGs, especially the strategy kind. So thanks for listening, guys, and I hope you enjoy this video. And like, subscribe, check out our Instagram page, which I've revitalized, and it's going strong so far. Check out our Facebook and our website, www.gamebug.com.au. And thanks for everything. Bye.